Morning, everyone. We are now at the Chicago History Museum here in north side of Chicago, and we are going to check out the Chicago History Museum here and see what that's all about here today. So here we are at the Chicago History Museum.
Here's your ticket. Keep it in your pocket.
Not sure what we're looking at here. Chicago 1920s.
120 Chicago alcohol.
What is this, some sort of civil rights?
Yes.
Model of the Columbian Exhibition 1893. The first Ferris wheel was here in Chicago.
This is what it looked like back in the day.
My great-grandparents were at this exposition.
Yeah, I have coins from this.
Did you read the medicine? The French explorers that Marquette and Joliet, the first explorers that explored the region, how they found the area.
Oh, sorry.
George Washington President. These now is it.
First settler in Chicago, John Baptist II.
Fort Dearborn. Fur trade was how Chicago got started with the French fur trades. Now, this is a tidbit. Even though the natives were not enslaved by the French, they still used them like animals for beaver skins and pelts.
This was a racetrack in 1884. That's what it looked like. You were a big town when you got a racetrack.
Here's a diorama of old Chicago in the wintertime.
That's what Chicago looked like in 1884. There's Lake Michigan in the background.
Chicago fire of 1871.
Chicago fire, 1871.
Burned practically almost all the town, right?
Strong and killed 300 people. 18,000 buildings were destroyed. This is what it looks like.
More than half the city was destroyed. So because of that, all buildings were brick.
Fires couldn't do a thing.
Chicago, about the turn of the century.
Chicago Road.
1865 Chicago, before the fire.
This is what Chicago looked like before the Chicago fire.
Frame. Chicago fire. Art of the Chicago fire of 1871. There's rumor on whether or not a cow started the fire or not, but we're not sure what really started the fire. But because of that, they do not have any wooden buildings
City.
today. After the fire, no more wooden buildings afterwards. Which is ridiculous, because I'm pretty sure now they could control fires now. They could start building wooden buildings now. And that's what they did. They talk about, well, what,
Chicago is one to build everything inexpensive for the large forests.
of course.
Even the bridges are wooden.
Climate. They talk about the weather, the windy, dry, and hot.
Life in 1871.
It was a major city back then.
There's a map.
So
of 1871.
Fullerton Avenue is the northern end of the city, Pershing Avenue is the southern end of the city. Pulaski is the end of the city. Laundry. Scrunch and plunge. If you've seen the movie Far and Away, which I did a review on, that's how they washed clothing back in the 1870s. This is how they washed clothes before washing machines. They made their own butter. It was very heavy work. With all the work they had to do to make food, prepare food, make their own butter, make their own coffee, juice jug, grain. There's a lot of work.
O'Leary. Born in Ireland, settled in Harrisburg, moved to Chicago. They lived with 5 children.
Is it a true story though?
It's a legend, but that's
They're blaming them.
blaming the O'Learys. That's what the barn looked like.
They blame the O'Learys for the fire.
There's a
The fire
pump.
engine.
Oh, there's a fire alarm.
Fire alarm to start that they had. But unfortunately, fire departments were very primitive back then. Now, this is a trivia though. They like to do explosions to put out fires. That they did in 1908 San Francisco earthquake, and they didn't know how to put out fires very well back then.
Of course, they had to find out.
Well, the bucket brigade. This is where the term bucket brigade came. They didn't have running water, so they had to do bucket brigade. So it was impossible to put out the fire with buckets. And this is how they knew how to put out buckets. They didn't know how to run water. Here's the old siren to the fire is coming, and the fire department hats.
Oh, crap.
English.
How did the Great Chicago Fire start? And why did it spread so quickly? To answer these questions, we must understand the physics of fire. What is fire? Fire is the product of a process called combustion. Combustion is a chemical reaction between oxygen, heat, and some kind of fuel. A fire will keep spreading as long as it has more oxygen and fuel to consume. No one knows exactly how the Chicago fire started that night in Mrs. O'Leary's barn. But we do know the city was perfectly set up for combustion. In 1871, Chicago was filled with wooden buildings built very close together. The summer had been extremely hot and dry, which made the wood easy to ignite. The night of the fire, wind from the southwest spread the flames quickly to the east and north. The wind increased the supply of oxygen to the fire, making it burn hotter and longer. The wind also carried flames, sparks, and burning pieces of wood called firebrands through the air and onto new fuel, spreading the fire from house to house and street to street across the whole city. During the Great Fire, people saw what looked like whirlwinds of flame. These so-called fire devils were created when super hot air from the fire rose and collided with the colder air above it. This collision made the air spin rapidly and suck flames into its vortex. Now known as fire whirls, these whirlwinds threw firebrands and sparks higher and farther, causing the fire to jump the river not just once, but twice. Fire can be stopped with water. Water puts out fire in two ways. First, water reduces the fire's heat. Second, water cuts off the oxygen needed for combustion and smothers the fire. Unfortunately, when Chicago's pumping station caught fire, it cut off the city's water supply and left the fire department high and dry. After burning for more than a day and a half, the Great Chicago Fire finally began to slow. One reason is that it ran out of fuel when it reached the north side, where the houses were further apart. And in the early hours of October 10th, it began to rain, finally cooling and smothering the flames.
More than half the city is destroyed by... we're north of where the fire hit. Interesting factoid. This museum is north where the fire hit. There you go. By October 10th, practically more than half the city was destroyed. Jailhouses. Oh, escaped convicts. Nothing to do about that. Destroyed items from the fire. Stuff that was recovered that was destroyed. Burnt book, burnt items, pottery, stuff that was recovered. China, keys to who knows what, useless keys afterwards, binoculars, big cumbersome stuff that was recovered. Tarnished china, tarnished pots and pans, cups, silverware that was burnt to crisp, glasses. People became homeless afterwards. Tent city. Well, they could have rebuilt though after, when they got more sophisticated with fire on them. It's the way it is. But they made a rule: no more wooden stuff, but it is what it is, I guess. So apparently, Chicago is very selective on who they wanted to help after watching that video there. So if you had a big family, and if your parents were probably foreign, and if you depends if you worked for yourself, or it depends who they wanted to help, how they wanted to rebuild. Apparently, I'm assuming if you weren't religious, they would probably not help you at all, or they'd send you on train tickets. They're really, really selective on what they wanted to do. What I learned from that video. Polish immigrants.
The Polish section of Chicago.
Polish immigrated to Chicago.
My dad was in World War II. He was on a tanker in New York, but he crafted from Chicago.
Jewish immigrants were mixed in with the Polish people. There's a menorah and a prayer book. But they mixed in with the they mixed the Jews, they kind of just lumped the Jews together.
There's the Jewish section. The Orthodox back then, they didn't have conservative yet. This is what the home run looked like in 1947. With the bar and the tables. That was the style. That's Walter's Tavern back in the years. That's what it looked like.
Old teletype typewriter, old adding machine.
I still have a typewriter that looks like this. It's an old Eddie. It's oil.
Polish passports. They take a boat, they could do either coming from the UK or to certain how they got to the United States. Well, there's several ways. Interesting. Obviously, if you weren't Jewish, you were treated more better, which is a weak they worship a Jew, but that's what it is. It's what it is. Handful of Russian and Polish people. Remember, the Italian were here first, and the Irish, and then the Polish. All segregated. It was all segregated back then. Chicago, like every major city, has streetcars. Only San Francisco has them left. 150th anniversary, Chicago. Crossroads of America. All the meat packing, all the rail. There's an old streetcar from turn of the century. It's all a train car. Yeah, old locomotive. Chicago. The Native Americans called him Chicago, and misspelled differently. Spelled differently by the French. When the French had it. The natives called it Chicago. French fur trade. So I got the fur trade's how the city got established with fur trading. Boomtown. Fort Dearborn, what that looked like back then, when it was when French had control before the Louisiana Purchase in the 18th century, when the French had control of the area.
This is Fort Dearborn.
And Louisiana Purchased it. This is an elevated car from the 19th century, from 1893. 1893.
Straw seats.
They knew how to.
The red line to Ravenswood. The red line.
But they knew. Apparently you can't go. Can you go on it? I don't.
Comfortable. Weird little seats you get.
You can't go on it, but they were very comfortable back then. That's very.
To go in it.
Strong seats.
They won't let people in it.
Correct.
That's okay. But they ran very comfortable on the L back then in 1893. It's too bad we don't have comfort like that these days. I guess, with deregulation and saving money.
You want to open it up.
Huh? Instead of advertisements, you look at the seat. Instead of there's glass windows instead of
Look at
advertisements.
the electric light bulbs on the ceiling.
Steamships, Lake Michigan, really large ice glacier lake across the continent. Silver, actual silver. Traveling. Wow. Meat capital, meat packing capital of the world is Chicago. Meat packer, all the cattle is shipped.
All this stuff.
Hatchman, hog and cattle. All the freight trains come into Chicago. The Wienermobile, hot dogs and pig and pork. Football, leather shoes, leather football. Look at this old leather chair, kind of goofy. Wow. Furniture. Breweries. With the influx of German and Russian and Polish, you got a lot of German breweries that came in. For those old bottles. Lumber, wow. A lot of timber out here. Lumber, logs wanted. Remember, we're in the Midwest, we have a lot of trees out here. $6. They'll pay $6. That was a lot of money in these days. What year was it? This was 1870. This is in 1870 for the type of wood they wanted. They paid a lot of money. $6 might have been like $6,000 today. So that's a lot of money for 1870 when they for the lumber. Early unions, which was frowned upon in those days. Iron and steel. Steel mills. The new economy, well, the tech company, but cell phones. Motorola cell phones were launched here in Chicago. Motorola started here. There's that 1980s brick telephone, the very first brick telephone, 1973. This telephone here, how far we've come from a brick and you had to actually have it was very expensive, those telephones.
I happen to have this cellular one, telephone in the house.
Interstate, toll roads. Volvo train. We're going to take a look at this old locomotive here.
Hello there. I'm John Everett, Chief Engineer of the Pioneer, Chicago's first locomotive. I'm heading out of town in a few minutes, going to Elgin, about 40 miles away. Would you like to come along? You can ride up here with me and I'll tell you how the Pioneer works. Now, the first thing you have to know is that
The Guinness galleries, what that's all
wood,
about.
not coal, and the wood is stored in the tender, a small rail car behind the engine. Now, we have a good fire flowing.
More about the fire was the biggest thing that ever happened. There's the famous water tower, which is downtown, by the way. It survived the fire. And White Castle copies.
Famous water tower.
White Castle copies the modeling because it survived it, but White Castle copies the modeling.
This is Chicago water tower.
More on the fire.
Keep them in view. Hold them
Police.
personally responsible for any trouble that occurs.
There was a lot of trouble.
Example of them if trouble does occur.
Obviously, a lot of looting and crime did happen, so you had to have an influx of police. People got hanged in those days.
Made to the so-called sensible
My
laboring
next door neighbor was
sensible laboring man.
detective in the Chicago Police Department.
A fellow who lets his wife and children starve
None.
in order to please his boss. A coward.
Riots, race riots in 1919.
A ragamuffin who
Race was still a problem.
struck him. The 18th Depression began in 1873 and lasted through the end of the decade.
Gangland, Chicago. This is my favorite part of Chicago. Prohibition hit in 1919. And with Prohibition, then you had the mob boss. This is my favorite part of Chicago history of 1920s with Al Capone of the South Side, who, because people wanted to drink and because it was ridiculous to have that amendment in 1919. And of course, you had the division of the North and South Side with the different gangsters. This is my all-time favorite part with the racketeering and of the prohibition of alcohol. Zoom in. This is my all-time favorite part.
Gangway.
Dick Tracy. This is the Banyan gang.
Moran gang. Torrio shot by gun.
How they just steal bootleg liquor because it's illegal to make
Yes.
this.
1938. There's a picture of
This is
Untouchables. Chicago program, Al Capone, 1931.
you got them for income tax invasion.
Income tax, public enemy number one. Gangs of Chicago.
More riots.
So Democratic,
City. Still is.
fellow Democrats, well, welcome to Chicago. Mayor Daley, that's who I remember.
Mayor Daley and his son became the mayor, and Daley
All
was.
I remember was Mayor Daley when I was.
Well, he's always been the mayor, and so is his son. This is a very liberal town today. the neighborhood maps. I think the divider right here, north versus south. They have a schism just like the Valley versus LA proper, the same type of north versus south schism. Chicago flag talks about the stars. Why there's 4 stars. Featured stars symbolizing the fire. 3rd star, Wallace rice, plenty of rice. 4th star is added. Council of Dearborn. You know, it's too bad. It was brought to my attention that hot dogs were canned back in the 50s for some reason. Very awkward. But then,
What was the Sears catalog?
surprised they don't mention Sears at all. They should mention Sears.
Sears was the world's largest retailer, and it was out of Chicago. Chicago community. This might have Montgomery Ward. Sears up there.
Aha! Sears Roebuck, world's largest retailer. Unfortunately, Sears is decaying. Montgomery Awards was also founded
Mail
here.
order. It's at Montgomery Ward, Richard
Here we
Sears
go.
developed cheapest supply house on earth.
They're selling everything.
Selling everything. And my grandfather published the Sears
My
catalog.
great-grandmother published this. And here we are, Sears catalog. We're
Sears Roebuck catalog.
My great-grandfather stuff. We found something here. Oh, look at this. Buy everything. Buy everything.
This watch was, my grandfather owned this watch, and it was given to his grandson, or his son, Stanley, who gave it to Mark Hyman, and then the watch was stolen.
More printing of the Sears catalog that was printed by my great-grandfather as an actual copy of the Sears catalog back there. And here are some more advertisement from the Sears catalog that's back there, printed by my great-grandfather. Did they even mention anything about the Sears? No, they did not mention the Dearborn part, but these advertisements were printed by the Sears catalog. Those are actual pieces of the catalog right there. Here's some more advertisement. Oh, look at this. Here's a replica right here. You could buy a whole house for $1,100 from the Sears catalog. They sold houses. This is my great-grandfather printed advertisement of houses from Sears. More advertisements of the Sears catalog. Again, my great-grandfather printed all of this with large printing and large pictures. I was told that the press was almost a mile long, or a few blocks long.
It's about 50 feet long.
Material, they sold the doors, everything. Getting all of this. This is all part of my personal history. Houses for sale, all Sears catalog. Only Sears would sell houses. Pre-made fab houses. Look at this. Furnaces, bathtubs, plumbing, $37. That's amazing. All from the Sears catalog. Crate and Barrel is started in Chicago. I'm surprised. I didn't know that.
Chicago's hot dog, Vienna beef.
1950s. Everybody had one of these.
This is what I grew up with in the 1950s.
Bowling ball.
We had a Brunswick Black Beauty.
Bye.
It's in my garage.
There's more stuff I missed.
Radio flyer.
Went back here. There's more stuff. Public houses.
This is bigger than this for machine.
Pill, invented here in Chicago. Some scientists did come here from Chicago. Oh, wow. The Sears Tower, yay! We're going there. 1974. John Hancock Center.
Sears Tower.
We'll go to the Sears Tower later today. We'll take a look at that. Insurance. Home insurance was started here in Chicago. This is the insurance capital.
1985 is the world's tallest building.
This is the insurance capital of the world. CNA and Zurich are both, and Hartford are all three insurance companies are based here in Chicago.
No, the best in Hartford.
Institute design. What's this chair all about?
Pottery. Antiques, chairs. Frank Lloyd Wright.
Oh yeah, he was here,
He
wasn't
was
he?
here in 1893. He designed homes. Architects.
Adler Planetarium named after him.
Chicago Stock Exchange.
Yeah. I didn't know they had one. I wonder why they stopped doing that.
First nuclear chain reaction in Chicago.
Oh wow. Chicago jazz and blues, of course, the Blues Brothers. B.B. King, my dad saw him live.
Chicago jazz and blues, that's awesome. We got it, man.
Miss Lucille? Betty Goodman. The Roaring Twenties. Flappers. Playboy Bunny. Playboy Club was started here.
Chicago Blues. This is where the blues comes.
Charlie Chaplin. (1893) World's Fair. Student.
The jazz, there's something with the jazz. Oh, it's the jazz club. Oh, it's the jazz club. Yeah. Are you sure?
White City. Edison lit up White's AC versus DC. Wow. Museum of Science and Industry, 1933. Wow. 1933 World's Fair. Century of Progress.
Maxim
Cubs finally won the World Series in 2016. Baseball, the game won the World Series. They haven't won a game. There was a prophecy in Back to the Future how they beat the Cubs. The Cubs finally won a World Series after all these years. Benzer was MVP for the World Series, who won the World Series in 2000. But 1 year after the Back to the Future prophecy was made. I haven't won a game since 1908.
Chicago Cubs.
Century of progress. Cubs finally won the World Series in 2016. Baseball, the game won the World Series. They haven't won a game. There was a prophecy in Back to the Future how they beat the Cubs finally won a World Series after all these years. Benzer was MVP for the World Series, who won the World Series in 2000. But 1 year after the Back to the Future prophecy was made. Chicago Theater. Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan. Swish. The Bears. 1988 Chicago Bears. Super Bowl. Old-time football. The Bears and the Packers. Probably one of the oldest two teams in the NFL. Lincoln was born in 1809 in Illinois. Mourn our country's loss of Abraham Lincoln, 1865, April 14th, when John Wilkes Booth assassinated him. They had his body go back to Chicago because he was the senator from Chicago. Lincoln elected. So our further slide. Lincoln, Chicago. Lincoln was a senator originally. I saw a film. This is the surveyor's compass. And it was surveyed by in 1830. Surveyed the city before the city was built. And I want to show you something else too. Delhi. Yep. Old 1893 loop. Chicago Pigeons for Freddie.
Doors closing. Washington and Wabash is next. Doors open on the right at Washington and Wabash. Connect to Metra and South Shore Line Millennium Station at Washington and Wabash. This is Washington and Wabash. Connect to Metra and South Shore Line Millennium Station at Washington and Wabash. This is a Pink Line train to 54th and Cermak. Doors closing. Adams and Wabash is next. Doors open on the right at Adams and Wabash. Transfer to Green and Orange Line trains at Adams and Wabash.
Going pretty fast.
This is Adams and Wabash. Transfer to Green and Orange Line trains at Adams and Wabash. This is a Pink Line train to 54th and Cermak. Doors closing.
It's gonna lose on you, Trio. Hold on, send your ass in. Oh yeah.
Harold Washington Library, State and Van Buren is next. Doors open on the right at Harold Washington Library, State and Van Buren. Transfer to Red and Blue Line trains at Harold Washington Library, State and Van Buren.
Right, yeah. So like you can still yeah. Weekends stay the same as like if you could do weekends. Well, I don't take this trip. I take it around. So you have the let's do weekends too. When I was younger, yeah, I used to go there. But now I'm going to country. I used to get every week. Friend, it's a cops game.
This is Harold Washington Library, State and Van Buren. Transfer to Red and Blue Line trains at Harold Washington Library, State and Van Buren. This is a Pink Line train to 54th and Cermak.
Yeah, but like I guess what we should look for
Doors closing.
like are there times we're running
LaSalle and Van Buren is next.
better heavy?
Doors open on the right at LaSalle and Van Buren. Transfer to Metra trains at LaSalle and Van Buren. This is the Sal and Van Buren.
Yeah.
This is a pink line train to 54th and Circuit.
I was thinking the same. Yeah, it's sort of like we're better than that. Yeah, right. This loads are my thoughts. I think like the question is also like
Doors closing.
this question is like maybe how or
Quincy is next.
so let's just
Doors open on the right at Quincy. Transfer to Metra and Amtrak trains at Quincy.
count that as the base schedule and then adjust that if you think it would make sense to fit it out. Makes sense. Okay. Yeah, for both of those, yeah. Or fine, yeah. Okay, and I think that I would probably related to okay.
Sometimes vlog, it's a vlog that happens, and sometimes, hello ladies and gentlemen, we are here in Chicago at the world famous Sears Tower, and we're going to go into the 110th floor, and over 100 years ago, my great-grandfather printed the Sears catalog, and he had on this site, and the printing press is called the Dearborn Press. From 1900 to 1950, he printed the Sears catalog here when Sears was the world's largest retailer. It's very sad shame. And of course, Sears sold everything from guns to houses to horses, to, you name it, they sold it. And it's a shame, though, that Sears is no longer the world's largest retailer. I guess Amazon kind of took it over, I guess. Amazon and Walmart kind of took over what Sears did. But yeah, we're going to go up to the 110th floor at one time from 1974, from 1974 to about 2012 or something. It was the world's tallest building, and then of course the Freedom Tower overtook it. Inside the Sears Tower, I gotta say something here on this camera. This building was built better than the original World Trade because it was built like cigarette style when they built that, and that was very important to know that the when they built the World Trade Center, which was a competition at the time, the original World Trade wasn't built as good. This was built better with these steel beams, and it was built cigarette style, so it's easier. They built it a lot more better, more safer. So if a plane hit this would not collapse unlike the original World Trade. Just a side thing.
No, hold on.
At one time, when this was the world's tallest building, they had the world's tallest elevators. They do a museum here too. They have a history thing too of the city.
This is it in the basement of the Sears Tower.
This is cute.
1,000 riders daily, giving them one-of-kind views. Okay, let's keep moving. There's the well, we didn't see this in Millennium Park. It was kind of sour. She's like crazy about it.
Well said.
lightning strikes, safely grounded. Fortunately, Willis Insurance Brokerage changed the name because they're the biggest tenant, which I consider bullshit, but... The spires. That's what the spires look like.
Spires on top of Willis Tower.
I'm calling it Sears no matter what.
That's your whole market.
That's his, what is it over there? The one that
Do you guys want a picture in here? Do you guys want any picture?
Magnificent Mile.
Motion simulator. I'm sorry.
Garfield Park.
Sorry.
Was that there?
Barbecue, fried chicken, Italian beef, steakhouse, deep dish pizza, hot dog.
Okay, no, there is a ball and
Oh, you could see it.
I know, right?
Got it. Wait,
Steve. Steve. Oh shit!
Talvez era o Benny, né? Tipo, lá, e a gente tava no resto. Por isso que a mulher perguntou, sabe?
Do you want a picture?
Sure.
No. On the pizza? You want a picture on pizza? Come on.
And blues is talking about personal tragedies.
Obama's 44th President of the United States, Barack and Michelle Obama. Maybe she should run. Oprah.
Second cities where they're starting a lifeline cruise game.
A lot of them came from like a lot of Saturday Night cast members came from Chicago. They got their start here.
Included Stephen Colbert, Steve Carell, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Drew Levy, Mike Myers, John Belushi, Bill Murray, Carol Ramis, Dan Aykroyd, Catherine O'Hara, Gilda Radner, Joan Rivers, Alan Arkin.
They got their start here in Chicago, and then they went to New York.
Sorry, do you know where the lift is going up?
Really? 1060 West Addison. Toyota sponsors them now, huh? That's interesting. What do you make of that one? John Daly Plaza. time the world's fastest elevators too. Unfortunately, the 110th floor is closed, so they take us to the 103rd floor instead, which is still a fantastic view, and luckily it's a nice day today. That is Lake Michigan. You can see all the train tracks. So we're looking southbound. Honestly, more impressive here. But I guess the elevator to the 110th floor. The 110th floor was closed due to elevator maintenance. They took us to the 103rd instead. And if I remember correctly, you'd see all the way to Indiana if they're a little bit clearer out. It even says Indiana's down that way.
Like it looks like it's not much.
All the Amtrak trains and the Metro trains and like that. Chicago River, Lake Michigan. Again, we're on the 103rd floor, so this is Lake Michigan, a glacial lake. When the Ice Age came, this was all ice, and then all melted to become Lake Michigan. Very cool. Looking east, see the traffic. A lot higher. There's the John Hancock building, the 98th floor. And a little gift shop. That building there is CNA headquarters, an insurance company that was started here in Chicago. CNA headquarters.
There's the John Hancock Center with the two spires.
And as I said, the 110th floor was closed because the elevator to that was closed.
There's the Albert Planetarium. And there's the Field Museum and the Shed Aquarium. And way down there, you see Jackson's Park.
Let's see.
Would be where the Renaissance is.
Looking to the westbound direction. Northbound. Apparently, we're this section here, from looking north, is where Billy's Day Off was filmed. There you can see the L, John Hancock, 98th floor. Milwaukee, way up there. Too bad we can't go on the 110th. Last time I was here, I went to the 110th floor. Ferris Cameron in 1986 Fearless Bleeder's Day Off. And luckily it's a beautiful day today. Of course it's not clear in the distance, but you can see the other states of Wisconsin up to the north.
Number 12.
Number 11.
What's number 12?
Number 12
I see it.
Marine.
Where's 12? The number 12 building.
Oh, that's...
I think I see it. I think it's like a radio tower.
Oh, there's another.
You can see the rush hour traffic down there. If you zoom in on the toll road down there, I can zoom in on the rush hour traffic. The Eisenhower Expressway is rush hour, everybody's leaving the city to go home.
I found the one there.
You can see the rush hour traffic down there. Everybody's leaving the city. There's the rush hour traffic. Everybody's going home for the day. It's after 4 o'clock Central Time. This is more impressive than that Seattle place we went to, in my opinion. So here is the western edge. There you can see the traffic. Here, take my picture. Here.
No, hold it here. I'm still filming.
I'm still filming too.
Yeah.
So we're here on the 103rd floor. And yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
103rd floor on the ledge. You see it? We're really high.
Oh yeah, if this thing breaks, sayonara.
This is so high, it's like flying in an airplane.
Look at the traffic.
Thank you. That is the Chicago Railroad.
You see the rush hour traffic, everybody going home for the day. We'll zoom in on that.
Oh, dang, I like it. Okay, but that's not that bad.
Zooming in on the traffic. Oh, I think I timed it.
Should take your last picture.
For some reason my zoom wasn't working. I don't know why it wasn't working. Look at the rush hour traffic, everybody going home.
I'm going to use my zoom now. I used it before.
Look at that. There's Johnny 2B signing off on the top of the Sears Tower, 103rd floor. Unfortunately, the 110th was closed off because they had elevator problems in the 110th, so they made everybody go to the 103rd, which is still pretty high up. So here we are in the 103rd floor, and we're signing off and whatnot.
Yeah. Go. You left this mark in the sky. Leave a mark in the sky. We're on the 103rd floor.